You know what it's like being a Jets receiver? What is your reaction to the Davante Adams trade news that came through this morning?
You know, I was like, oh, a little bit. I mean, I wasn't shocked that he would be moved. I think I was more like surprised that the Jets did it 24 hours after, or maybe had already took care of business. They just said, wait till, you know,
After
the
the
game's
game.
over with. That he would wind up a Jet, given the situation this past week with Robert Saleh being removed, and now you got an interim coach. You don't know what's happening with your quarterback. Is he in? Is he out? At least in Buffalo, which I thought that probably would be the landing spot for him, because Brandon Beane is extremely aggressive at going and getting guys. He's did it with Stephon Diggs. He did it with Von Miller, a bunch of other guys. It's just his style. Plus, they needed an alpha dog at the receiver position with a quarterback that's not going anywhere. Quarterback doesn't have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I don't think the head coach is going anywhere. They're at the top of the division. It just made all the right sense for him to be a Bill and not a Jet. So I was like, okay, maybe he goes there and something changes.
Paul, were you surprised?
Yeah, not so much. You know, all the talk has been surrounding him going to the Jets, even when he first announced that he was on the chopping block, that, you know, even all of you guys said Jets, Jets, Jets. And so it makes sense because, yeah, I thought the Bills probably made great sense, but he went somewhere where it was the comfortability, the familiarity, and things of that nature. You know, regardless of Robert Saleh not being there, I bet you, I'm willing to bet you that after the Jets lost that game and Aaron Rodgers threw that interception, he got on his phone and was like, hey, we need you now. to Davante Adams. And so that's why we see things kind of move. I'm shocked that this didn't happen a few weeks ago when they lost to Denver, you know, when they only scored 9 points. You know, so this is something that the Jets need. And to be honest, I wasn't on the Jets. I was halfway off the Jets bandwagon, but this can really make them formidable now, having Davante Adams on the offensive side, because I feel like they struggled and the defense is kind of ahead of the offense.
Yeah, I like the deal. And I would imagine, guys, that these guys were talking through this whole process.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? They're
Absolutely.
great friends. Yeah, I thought about what you said from a business standpoint. You're right. Buffalo sounds like a better deal business-wise. I'll have a longer tenure here with Josh Allen. But you also got to consider we're going to week 7.
Yeah.
You don't have time to go to some offense that you have to learn all of those things. You have to now go being able to fit right in somewhere if you're going to be effective this year. So getting Davante Adams, I thought that was big. That was big for the Jets. Now, I hope they're getting him to help make the play that Mike Williams did not make. You're getting this guy because he's a big-time player that make big-time plays in big-time moments. You're not getting the Davante Adams, and you don't have the Aaron Rodgers that you saw in Green Bay. Now, that's the issue here, because Aaron Rodgers, you can't play the MVP kind of guy. You have to play like they played in Week 6 to give them a chance with Davante Adams. Week 6, they rushed the ball much more. They had 121 yards rushing. All the other weeks, they were averaging only 80 yards rushing. So the whole thing is adding what Aaron Rodgers does, not letting Aaron Rodgers try to lead the pack, but just be a game manager and win late with this guy right here.
I'm not surprised because this was one of the teams that he said he wanted to go to.
Yeah,
right.
So
Yeah.
from that regard, that's not surprising. What is a little interesting is the situation changed over the past week with the head coach getting fired. And that, I think, gave us all a little bit of pause of, okay, well, does Davante want to go through this type of situation again, where he's not really sure how long Aaron Rodgers is going to be there, because we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to play next year or not. We don't know what the situation is moving forward with this Jets coaching staff. This is kind of an unstable situation when you look at it. But to Michael's point, at least you know this offense. You're familiar with this quarterback. There's not that much of an adjustment period, at least on paper, for Davante to go here. I do think that the Bills was a place that obviously needed one, and we'll talk about what they got in a second. What does make this interesting, though, I don't want to hear nothing about Aaron Rodgers wasn't on board with this firing, because this is his friend. And they've gone through this before, where they clearly had some very transparent conversations.
I was on this,
and that wasn't the only reason why Davante left, but he did leave, partially because there was some instability with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay about whether he was going to be there or not. So I have a hard time imagining that Aaron's like, this place is crazy. It's the worst. Da, 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 da. We have no control. But come here.
No.
I've talked to the owner. We know where we're headed. I know it doesn't look right now, but if you come here, we're going to have this thing right. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Assessment. As you were saved from that conversation, that's what you extrapolated from that? I'm with you.
That is what I extrapolated from that
exactly
conversation and this move. I would feel uncomfortable going there if Aaron wasn't comfortable with the situation. Right. So he is there. He must have done some convincing that they were still on the right track, because this would be a risky move for Davante otherwise. Yeah. What impact will Davante have on the Jets, though, Keyshawn?
I think it'll have an impact in the passing game, especially on Garrett Wilson. Michael mentioned the learning curve. Had he gone to Buffalo, though, the learning curve would have been small as well, because they run a very similar system with Joe Brady, who was in New Orleans with Sean Payton and before LSU. I mean, all of the West Coast style stuff is all within 90% of each other. So his learning curve is going to be great. Michael said the chances of him running the same route that Mike Williams did, causing an interception, is probably slim to none. You get Garrett Wilson, who now could probably play his natural position, which is slot receiver. You could put him inside of Davante, or you could put him inside of a tight end and Davante on the backside. You can now play with it many different ways.
All those two verticals could be Garrett Wilson and Davante
Adams on the same side.
That is a whole different thing you got right there.
So he's going to help them tremendously in the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of the reasons Keith said, like, it just opens up their offense, because now you don't have to think about this. Just the last few weeks, Garrett Wilson has been the #1 targeted in all of football. I mean, when you throwing the ball to him 20 times, I mean, that could wear on a person. So now you bring in Davante, a #1 guy who could be on the outside. Now, Garrett, hey, get in the slot, cut through the middle, or you could get to the outside too. So it takes pressure. They take pressure off each other. They complement each other pretty well. And also, don't forget about Lazard over there. Hey, he's had some spectacular games. And so I just think this wide receiving core, adding Davante Adams, could arguably be the #1 receiving core in all of football.
It'll take some time to get that. And also, Paul, I've never heard a receiver complain about 20 targets a game wearing them down. You know what I mean?
That's
exactly what they want.
That means 20 times you get hit, too.
Right,
that's a lot.
Right, especially if you're not making those plays, and that's the whole key. That's a lot. Those are a lot of plays that you're getting targeted that we're not making, that'll help with the percentage when you get a guy like this. Right. Now, he'll be running those routes that, remember when I talked about how many routes he's ran on the outside and he's only had so many completions on out? This dude right here, this beast to be handling that, that'll make a huge difference. You throw out that Denver game where they obviously, you know.
It was raining.
Yeah, and all of that. And they scored 9 points. This team has scored around 22, 23 points in most of the games. You put Davante Adams in there, and you put him, now if they can get in that 26, 27 points, this makes a huge difference for the Jets. This could be the difference between you guys we're not going to make the playoffs, and now that Miami's out, you can possibly still sneak in here and be that second AFC East.
How long, though, right? They have the Steelers this weekend.
Yeah, this thing got to click quick.
And it's because they're 2-4.
But you got the Steelers, and who else you got coming in? Because you got to look at the teams they're beating are the teams that don't score a lot of points on offense.
They have the Steelers coming up, then the Patriots, the Texans, Cardinals, Colts, and then their bye.
That's good.
Right. That's a favorable schedule, because offensively those teams don't score a whole lot of points.
That's my only thing about the Jets. Like talent-wise, everything is there for them. Everything is there for them on paper. They just don't have no discipline on the defensive end and the offensive end. Just last night, all the penalties. So I don't even care how much talent you got. If you don't have a discipline on either side of the ball, you're still going to be the same old Jets. I don't care who you put out there.
And that was going to be, now you got to remember now, everybody was going to play their best right there, because they wanted to prove that, okay, it was Coach Saleh, it's not us. We'd have won this game. That would have kind of been a proof. That would have been
Bills didn't beat them yesterday.
It didn't go down.
Y'all agree? The Bills didn't beat them. They lost that game.
Well, the Bills are the better team. The Bills are the more stable team. They're the better coach team. So whether there's more talent on one side or the other doesn't matter. If you're a better team, you can play bad and find ways to win, which you always say. there was a lot of penalties on both sides. It was ridiculous. We weren't even watching a game. We're just watching the refs throw flags in the air. I'm with you on that. But you're right. Culturally, this doesn't change anything.
Culturally, it doesn't change anything.
Well, from one star wide receiver to another, our guy Jordan Schultz broke the news earlier that Buffalo also made their own move for a new #1 receiver today, trading for Amari Cooper. The Bills sent a 3rd and 7th round pick to Cleveland in exchange for Amari and a 6th round draft pick. Michael, what does this mean for the Bills?
First thing I thought about was, and I thought was a great situation for Josh Allen this time and this year, because Josh has taken over this team. This is Josh's team. We talked about that before. And now you bring in a receiver like Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper can still play football. I told you guys a couple weeks ago when I saw him in Cleveland, he was done with Cleveland. I sat right here and said, I saw a slant route where he looked back and said, I ain't catching that. He was done with Cleveland. So moving him now gives him an opportunity to get going again. I think it's interesting that this is such an antithesis when you talk about Stephon Diggs. Personality-wise,
they're opposites?
Absolute opposite. Yeah. Absolute opposite. This is a quiet guy who's going to be in the locker room just playing chess with people. He really loves to play chess. I mean, literally play chess. So he's not going to be loud. He's not going to cause any stir. When the game pressure's on the line, he's not going to be like you and Stephon Diggs, demanding that the man throw the ball to y'all no matter what. That's what's different. And right now, Josh Allen, that's good for Josh Allen to get that talent without that noise.
Have you ever been hit square between the nose?
You are the spokesperson for outrageous wide receiver behavior, Keyshawn. So, you got to live up to your reputation.
No, I'm all good with it. He will not take on the Keyshawn Johnson personality. There's no question about it. In the end, though, Joy, it's a perfect match for Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. He just died and gone to heaven. I mean, when you think about what he was dealing with in Cleveland over the last couple of years with the quarterback carousel that was going on. The stability is there in Buffalo. It won't be no backup. Mitch Trubisky won't see the field, okay? So it's kind of, he has done some things in his career that was certainly, 4 or 5 years ago, we were talking about him in the top 5 receivers in the National Football League. And now he can get back to that, like Michael is saying, with a quarterback that understands what he means to that offense. That's why they went out and got Stephon Diggs originally, because Josh Allen needed somebody. The last 2 games after the Jacksonville Jaguar game, Josh Allen realized, hey, Brandon Beane, I need to go get another receiver. And Brandon Beane says, okay, I can get him on the cheap. It's not going to cost us anything, and he can still play at a high level. Amari Cooper's our guy. I thought it would be Davante Adams, but I'm okay with Amari Cooper, and I think he'll bring a lot to that offensive passing game for Buffalo.
I mean, not bad for a plan B. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because if you lost, once you lose out on the Davante Adams sweepstake, and think about this. Teams who really want to make a push for the playoffs or even a Super Bowl, they react. And this is what I saw from the Buffalo Bills. They was like, oh, he's off the table now? And then I was in the weight room like, oh, they picked up Amari Cooper just like that. They got on the phone like, hey, this is the one thing Josh Allen said after a couple losses. He was like, you know what? I kind of miss Stephon Diggs now, but I don't miss the way our locker room is because I like the way the culture is. Everybody eats. That's what he said. Everybody eats. But you know what? I am missing that one guy that I can depend on. And this is spot on by grabbing Amari Cooper. And so I like the move, especially with the Bills. They look like they can put something together in the division. They will win the division, but they're like, hey, we're going to be formidable in the East.
Where were you at when you heard this news?
Oh, I was probably hitting the hundreds.
He was in the weight room.
Yeah, they got TVs up, so, stuff come across the TV.
America, he works out.
Yes, we all work out. We got to get our exercises in.
But even to Amari, let me see, because I said something. I don't want Amari to think that I'm wrong for saying it when I said he was done with Cleveland. You got to understand the mind of Amari, too. Now, remember, Joe Flacco last year came in, and they went on fire. I mean, Amari had a 200-yard game, big games. And so he's saying, I know what I can do in this offense. I know what I can still do. And when Deshaun Watson came back, that thing went, so I understand his frustration. Now, he's getting a Josh Allen, he'll get back to that kind of play.
Yeah, he broke Cleveland's single-game franchise record with 265 yards in a Week 16 win over Houston. He's had 1,000-yard seasons 4 of the last 5 seasons. He's been a very, very consistent receiver, maybe one of the most consistent receivers.
Dallas should have never got rid of him.
Should have.
And the Bills do need somebody who eats. Yeah, everybody eats, but everybody's getting like portions. You need somebody who's a big dog who comes in and who's the one that gets the leg off the turkey? You know,
the one at the head of the table.
Yeah, he's got to get that. They are 26th in receiving yards per game. Are the Bills? They are 26th in targets, 25th in passing offense this year. This is something that they needed. I love it. To your point, is it plan B? Or maybe it was their plan A to begin with. Who knows? But I also think that this kind of feels like the Browns are hanging it up as well because they've got a lot going on. Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.